the brand strategy and its relationship with the IAG team overall. Just curious about how much of that had to be filtered through the echelons there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a twofold thing. I suppose in the Irish context, it was really important that we kept our Irish heritage, because the consumers and guests were so passionate about Aer Lingus being part of Ireland. So that was really important, I suppose, in some of the things that we developed. So the brand manifesto ad was very talked about the Irish nation and what their travel needs were. And then the IRFU was a really good property to bring two great brands together. So yeah, absolutely. In the international arena, it's probably not as relevant, but certainly in the Irish context, it was critical.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Flannery from UCD. I have a question for Alina, and that's in relation to targeting millennials. Obviously, you've had great success with that over the last couple of years. Are you planning on carrying that same platform forward, or are you going to, like them, be a bit fickle and look at something new in the coming years?
The plan really will be to continue to target millennials, because what we know through research is that as we age, we fall away from snack consumption, whereas the millennials continue to focus on snacking consumption. They're the people I think Adam is trying to target with his VHI campaign. They're not in that space yet. They're the people who are living freely, eating and drinking whatever they wish. But they're also focused on health, and they're focused on exercise much more so than my generation, the Generation X. So what we're doing is tailoring our offering to suit those particular audiences. So we have a portfolio of brands in Largo Foods. It's not just Tater Crisps. We have Velvet Crunch, we have popcorn, and we have products that suit the changing needs of the consumer. So I think what will happen is that we'll continue to use more than just a crisp campaign. And at the very outset, actually, in the development of the campaign, we knew that it lends itself perfectly to communications across the portfolio. And we use that currently. We talk about other brands within our range. So I think it will remain a relevant platform for us for the next number of years.
There's a question I have for Dervla. You chose guest to replace passenger. Did you have other options?
No, I think we did a lot of benchmarking, and this was across lots of different services and for example, queuing, and we looked at what Disney do in terms of when you're trying to queue for a ride and how they operate. So we were looking at different companies and how do you differentiate and move yourself one step ahead. And the hotel industry and where people really look for the superb service. And people are called guests when you stay somewhere, and we wanted people to feel that when you're on the Aer Lingus journey, whether you're at the check-in at the airport, whether you're in one of our lounges, or whether you're on board, you're treated like a guest. And it's just that bit extra respect and care and attention that we wanted to make sure they felt. So guests was the obvious choice, but it was, looking at various different industries and seeing how do we step one step ahead. There was a whole program which we took the cabin crew through, which was moving from good to great. And becoming great was this excellent and beyond expectations in terms of a service delivery. So the hotels do it very well, and some of the top hotels, and we wanted to make sure we stood out from the other brands.
I'll just ask a question to each of the members. Sorry, Circa here from Alternatives. Just from a career perspective, what would each of you say was the one biggest learning on this campaign that you've brought to your career?
To think about that one.
Come back to you.
Yeah. I think it was probably, and I suppose it was not really a learning as such as something that I would always be aware of, but it really came to the fore in the More Than Just a Crisp campaign was the collaborative effort of all of the agencies, and it really came to the forefront in that agencies nowadays are multitasking. They're offering multiples of offers across they're kind of cross-fertilizing to a certain extent, and they're all gaining expertise in areas that were traditionally sitting with one particular agency over another. And it was trying to decipher who was best placed to bring the campaign to life. And this was a bit of a, I suppose it was a new learning in many respects, in that people were presenting expertise in areas that you wouldn't have assumed they would have had expertise in the past. So it was trying to assess who the best people were for the job, and bringing out their expertise in those particular areas and making sure that they were best used for the development of the campaign. So there was a bit of a crossover there, and sometimes it was an uncomfortable crossover, because in your head you said, no, this agency is looking after this area, that they present something that you hadn't considered them for in the past, and then they'd be introducing you to other members of other agencies that were related, and suddenly you have this whole range of individuals who have something else to bring. They have another angle, another perspective, and I was trying to decipher which were the best perspectives to bring into the fold in the development of the campaign. So I think, that was a bit of a new one for me.
I suppose for myself in Aer Lingus, I think the big learning was to be brave and to be bold. And I think that came from, a lot of the research. If we had have listened just to our own customers, we probably wouldn't have done anything. We would have stayed with our great care, great fare proposition, because that's what they knew and that's what they loved and that's what they thought of Aer Lingus. But, I suppose the challenge at the very beginning was to get out of the middle, and therefore you have to disrupt, and you had to do something brave and bold. And sometimes I always remember reading the book Steve Jobs about, you have to invent things. People don't know what they want. So there was an element of that. We had to develop this proposition where some of our customers were, quite frankly, I watched all the focus groups, some of their faces just, what are you talking about? Smart? Aer Lingus smart? It was actually something they probably would have described Ryanair as. So for us, it was, do you take that bold move? And I know the consumer insights manager was, really nervous and hesitant, so it just needed somebody, and I suppose I stepped up and said, I think we go for it. If you think of the bigger picture of what we want to achieve, it needs this disruption, and let's go for it. So luckily, the exec bought it, which I could have been out the door. So be brave and be bold. Sometimes you have to take that challenge and the plunge. Go with your gut.
I suppose, hopefully, what I communicated to you today is that the way that we've achieved what we wanted to achieve in our market is by stepping right up and looking at all of the factors of production. And our story isn't about the ads, and it isn't about the product design, and it isn't about the pricing, and it isn't about the differentiators, and it isn't about the digital. It's about all of it. It's about actually constructing an entire proposition. And so for me, the key learning is we've got brilliantly creative people in our marketing team, and I would hate if they restricted their creativity to just thinking about marketing collaterals, to just thinking about we're going to make a more creative ad, a more creative social campaign, a more creative sponsorship. Because I think actually what we all need to do as marketers is inflict that creativity on our business, actually on our P&L, and understand the dynamics of the business, and understand how a new proposition can actually fundamentally shift those dynamics. It was absolutely deadly simple for me because I work with Mary and I worked with a brilliant guy, Tony Boylan, at the time, and those guys were all over that. I have this fantastic creative agency here, and so I couldn't have gone wrong, basically. I just couldn't have made the mistake. No, look, the thing about it is when we decided to go down the testimonials route, we actually did some pre-testing. And we learned very quickly that this could be very, very difficult for customers. I remember actually some of the stimulus, even though it's a long while ago, I remember some of the stimulus. And people actually found it hard to even talk about the words. I mean, people in focus groups can't say the word cancer because it's such a scary, scary word. So we worked out real super quick that we were firstly going in the right direction, but secondly that we absolutely had to do everything to protect our customer, our audience, from having to engage with something that they were going to find hard. Because, of course, we wanted them to engage with it. So we looked at every option that we had available to us, and animation seemed to make sense. And as I say, starting slow with something that isn't going to scare you, and then ramping it up also kind of made sense. But I'm very lucky with the caliber of people who have advised me on this stuff.
Adam, from Sparks here. I suppose, particularly for you, working in financial services, the big major buzz thing that we're looking at is trust and transparency, and the whole attitude out there, before I need you, and moving from payer to partner. I noticed you said you moved your trust score up by 11%. Over what period was that, and what do you mainly attribute it to? Was there any particular thing you felt hit the nail on the trust?
I suppose over the period would have been over a 3-year period. I think it's fair to say our trust scores are always strong. I think it's fair to say that we would always be at least double our competitors, in fact, possibly 2.5, maybe 3 times on that particular scale. I think actually the thing about it is, as I said earlier on, it wasn't about any one thing. It was about talking about the right stuff in our marketing communications, delivering the right services through our digital channels. I haven't mentioned all the work that we did in terms of customer service. I glossed over all the work we did in terms of product design, a huge amount of work, which is absolutely about making sure that each customer feels comfortable that the product they're buying is the one that's going to meet their needs. And so I was told I had 10 minutes. I'm pretty confident I went over that. I just didn't have time to go into all of the detail of that. But I think actually that's where you build trust. It's more about what you do and how you deal with your customers than what you say about what you do and how you deal with your customers, I suppose.
I am Mary from the Irish Times. I just want to commend you on your recent campaign, your current campaign on infertility. I think it's fantastic that the PHI have taken it upon themselves to kind of highlight this really emotive topic, and a topic which I think all of us probably know somebody who has gone through in one way or the other problems with having children. But I'm just wondering, is this an isolated campaign, or is it part of a series of topics that you're going to touch on?
Well, look, without giving our future strategy away, because there are some people in the room who will beat the Lord out of me if I do. Look, we're about trying to add value to our customers, and that's about doing those things like absolutely making sure that we've got the right product for you, but absolutely making sure that we have the services that actually meet your needs. And so, of course, we're looking at every opportunity to try and add value. And sometimes, it might be something that exists today that just needs to be better. And sometimes it's going to be something completely new, like the fertility benefits. And sometimes it's going to be a big campaign like fertility. We're actually podcasting, possibly in this room this evening with Maya Dunphy again, in terms of fertility. So sometimes there's going to be a big multimedia campaign, and sometimes it's just going to be something that goes on your table of benefits and just sits there, but it's there and available to you. So look, the thing about our market is, the thing that I actually love about my job is our market changes all the time. I spent about 15, 16 years working in beer marketing, and each year in beer marketing, I actually found, a few former beer marketers in the room, I actually found was kind of a bit like the last. Whereas in health insurance, the market is constantly evolving and constantly changing. And so, if we don't keep on changing, keep on adding value, we'll have problems. So, yeah.
Anyone else? No? Okay, I think we have a wrap. Thank you very much to Dervla, to Adam, to Alina. I think we've had a very good morning here, very stimulating and interesting rundown on our 3 finalists. So I'd just like to say a big thank you again to the Irish Times for hosting this morning, to Lou Conlon and her team, to Alternatives, our sponsor, and most of all for you guys for turning up here this morning. I hope you've enjoyed it, and have a good day. Thank you.